I'm Gabby Matthews. It's Alex McGowan, Ethan Snyder, and Callie Yates.
Nuclear energy started in 1789 when Martin Klaproth not invented, but discovered the element uranium. Throughout the years up till today, a bunch of a lot of tests were made and experiments on uranium, like nuclear fission. By that led up to nuclear fission, led up to the testing of the first atomic bomb on July 16, 1945. Due to the vast number of effects this caused, people were charged to use this after World War II, and they started using nuclear power for an energy source. And in 1951, the experimental breeder reactor was the first successful test of a nuclear site.
The four cons of presentation are nuclear weapons, instability, uranium mining, and nuclear waste.
Good morning. My name is Morgan Allen. This is Kelby Anderson with Dr. Corky. Our presentation will be on the pros of nuclear power.
So, on December 2nd, 1945, Enrico Fermi, an Italian-born scientist and physicist, conducted the first ever contained nuclear reaction. This was a huge step in every direction, including in weaponry and in energy sources. Enrico Fermi is also credited with being on the Manhattan Project, which built the first ever nuclear weapon. So this was the building of the first reactor was turned into a huge controversy in good and bad ways, because it can be used as weaponry or it can be used as another source of energy. The government has been looking into whether they should build a new nuclear reactor or if they should put the money into other sources of energy. We believe that the government should build a new nuclear reactor, which would be the first in 5 years. Three pros that support this are the decrease in CO2 emissions, the effectiveness and reliability and efficiency, and the low cost of production.
So the first con of nuclear energy is nuclear weapons. The most infamous nuclear weapon is the atomic bomb. The atomic bomb greatly affects humans and the environment. It affects humans by thermal injury, radiation exposure, ionizing radiation, infertility, blood disorders, and eye cataracts. If you survive an atomic bomb, you are most likely to develop cancer within the next 5 years and suffer from severe scarring. It affects the environment because when an atomic bomb explodes, particles fall back down to the earth, contaminate our soil, water, food, and air. It also genetically mutates plants and animals.
So, in our first pro is the decrease in CO2 emissions. In a study done by the World Nuclear Association, nuclear power, for every 2,518 terawatts of electricity, nuclear power only produced 73 million tons of CO2, which may seem like a lot, but it's really insignificant compared to the amount that coal produced. Coal produced 2.2 billion tons of CO2, and natural gas wasn't any better, only producing 1.1 billion tons. As you can see, this number signifies the difference in the amount that coal produced compared to nuclear energy. And in a study done by the EPA, nuclear power also took up 400,000 tons of nitrogen oxide. And in the second study done by the EPA, nuclear power is the largest source of carbon-free electricity, which means that it produces little to no carbon compared to other sources. And so nuclear power actually produces 62.9% of America's carbon-free electricity. And second place is hydropower, but only produces 19.3%. As you can see, nuclear power is very eco-friendly compared to other sources.
The second con of nuclear power is instability. Three recent instability incidents are 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. 3 Mile Island was a complete meltdown of the inside of the reactor without anyone knowing why. It happened in Midtown, Pennsylvania, which actually isn't that far away. Chernobyl was a test gone wrong when they were running, as always, their daily routine. The government did not tell people for 3 days until 3 days after the incident that it had happened. So they lost thousands of animals, and 20 miles around the site site is still blocked off, and you must wear a hazard suit once you enter into the area. Fukushima, the final instability incident was major a major show of how we cannot hold this up against the elements. Fukushima was not on purpose; it was a total accident, unable to control. An earthquake led to a tsunami, which flooded the cooling plants and made all three reactors melt down within 3 days. A study by the World Health Organization proves that children born around the time of Fukushima are more likely to have thyroid cancer than any other generation of Japanese children.
Efficiency is very important when it comes to a power source. Nuclear energy has a 92% capacity factor. This means that out of the 100% of energy that could be produced, 92% of it is being produced. This is actually a very good capacity factor, even compared to coal, which has a 56% capacity factor, and natural gas, which has a 55% capacity factor, and wind energy, which has a 33% capacity factor. When these other resources aren't using the energy to their full ability, it ends up wasting time, money, and resources. Nuclear energy can be very reliable because it runs 24/7 and it can be helpful in the case of an emergency. The use of nuclear power is slowly growing. 20% of the United States uses nuclear power within 30 states, ranging up to 40 power plants in each. Overall, the use of nuclear energy is more reliable and efficient because you are able to use all of the resources without wasting anything that you need or could use for something.
Another con of nuclear power is uranium mining. This on the left is a uranium mine in Virginia. And uranium mining causes acid mine drainage and dewatering. Acid mine drainage is formed through the oxidation of heavy metals while mining uranium, and this causes a leak of radionuclides and heavy toxic metals into the environment. The top right picture is an example of your acid mine drainage in the environment. The other factor, dewatering, is made when people pump water out of the ground from the surface, or they use extraction wells to lower the water table near the mine. And that lowers the quality of the surface water near the mine and the environment around it.
Okay, so here we have a picture that shows the cost effectiveness of nuclear power. Nuclear power tends to be very cost effective, and it costs a lot less than gas or petroleum powered plants. So here we have the green line is nuclear power, and you can see how low it is compared to gas, coal, and petroleum powered plants. Now, since this is such a cost effective energy production method, even if like prices of petroleum, like in 2011, we had a instant rise in the cost of petroleum and natural gases. And a study done by the Institute for Energy Resources proved that nuclear energy per kilowatt hour was 2 cents is what it cost production cost wise, and petroleum and natural gas electricity production was 21 cents per kilowatt hour. So this method of energy is much more cost effective than any other method.
The fourth and final con of nuclear energy is nuclear waste. Nuclear waste is the highly radioactive and dangerous byproduct of nuclear energy. There is no permanent storage solutions. They're being temporarily stored in yellow storage containers and placed in underground facilities. An example of an underground facility leaking is the Hanford nuclear site in Washington, United States, where thousands of gallons of nuclear energy leak into the ground.
Okay, so in conclusion, nuclear power has several beneficial pros consisting of cost effectiveness, in the fact that it's environmentally friendly, and the fact that it's always reliable and proves to be effective in the world. So therefore, we believe that the U.S. government should implement the funds for a new nuclear power plant here in our country.
In conclusion, we believe that since nuclear energy can cause massive deaths through weapons. Its instability is unable to contain. There's no way at the moment to keep radioactive waste in check, and uranium mining ruins the environment. That the subcommittee should take their time and decide not to use their money to fund another nuclear power plant.
Any question over here?
Would it be safe to say that
Say again?
the byproduct of uranium and nuclear waste has a shorter lifespan than the CO2 emissions that has having a longer lasting effect to our ozone layer?
It depends. Some nuclear waste can take thousands of years to decay, but the CO2 emissions, I guess, can last longer. But once you produce so much nuclear waste, there's just nowhere to put it on the Earth. So that's more.
What is a kilowatt hour?
It's basically a unit of electricity. It's a unit of electricity and how much energy it takes to produce a certain amount of electricity for a certain amount of time.
Very good.